Cincinnati BYU Friday night. Our pleasure to welcome Cincinnati's radio analyst, Jim Kelly, to the Wise Guys. Hall of Famer, outstanding receiver back in the day, guitarist, singer. Maybe he'll sing a song for us. I don't know.
Does he have the guitar with him? That's
but
the
he's
question.
staying up late for us in Cincinnati. And Jim, welcome to the Wise Guys.
Hey, thanks for having me, fellas.
Do you have the guitar with you, Jim? Do you, like we heard?
Actually, I don't want to turn the computer around here, but I've got about 8 of them on the wall.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about right there.
So this is my football side of things. Down there is the music.
The music side. I respect that so
Let's
much
stay-
I can't even tell you.
Let's stay on the music side. We'll stay on the music side
okay.
for a second. What's the best? What's your favorite song to play?
You know, I do mostly classic rock, and it's interesting. I try to learn new stuff all the time, and I added a couple of Tom Petty songs that I've known for a long time, but I've never really tried to play or sing. And really enjoy "Running Down a Dream" and "American Girl." So
Nice.
Running Down a Dream is like one of the ultimate sports songs.
Yes.
it is. It is. I do. They have a marathon here. It's called the Flying Pig Marathon, and I play from like 8:30 in the morning till noon at a spot out at mile marker 20. And I always try to do when the leaders come by, I'll try to do either. And I don't necessarily do a whole lot of Bruce Springsteen, but I'll try to do Born to Run, which I do a pretty bad job of, or I'll do better with Running Down a Dream.
Nice.
That's great stuff. I love it. So, hey, your Bearcats had a tremendous battle against Oklahoma last week. The defense held the Sooners to a season-low 20 points. I mean, I was starting to say, hey, Oklahoma's looking like the old Oklahoma offensively.
Right.
But the Bearcats kind of held them in check. What's your take from that game last week?
Yeah, you guys hit it right on the head. The defense played very, very well. And they did a nice job of, keeping a what were they averaging? 55.5 points, I think, coming into that game.
Yeah.
And they held them in check and, put a little bit of pressure, on Dylan Gabriel, really kind of stopped the run game. Did a nice job for the most part, did everything they needed to do to win the game. The only downside of it, and I do believe Oklahoma has an underrated defense, but the downside was the offense wasn't able to match them. And quite honestly, red zone failures for 2 weeks in a row now, both the Miami game, which was 2 weeks ago or 2 games ago, and then this week with the Oklahoma game. Even another touchdown would have made that come down to the wire. Could have been anybody's game at the end of the game had the Bearcats been able to score 1, maybe 2, or they missed a very, very short field goal as well. So really didn't do the things offensively they needed to do, but defensively they played a very, very good game.
What do you make of the quarterback matchup for Friday night? You've got Emory Jones, Florida, Arizona State, now Cincinnati, and you have Keaton Slovis, USC, Pittsburgh, now BYU.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every game you go into and your opponent, they've transferred from somewhere. I think last year I can remember one of the stats that was out there was 46 of the starting quarterbacks in the FBS schools were transfers. I haven't seen a number this year, but my guess is it's around there, maybe even higher. It's one of those things, but you've got 2 good quarterbacks, and Emory's had an up and down career. He had a couple of good years at Florida. Was going to be the third year have his third year starting. Coaching change came in. They wanted to go in a different direction. He goes to Arizona State. Herm Edwards gets fired after 1 game, and he kind of has they not just they had a pretty rough year last year, and he's done a nice job. He has. He's still learning the offense, Coach Satterfield's offense, and he makes some decisions that I know he'd like to have back. But all in all, he's done a pretty good job. And then Keaton Slovis, of course, Coach Satterfield and the staff that came from Louisville, they knew him last year, or they knew him from last year at Pittsburgh. But
right.
I watched him when he was out west and didn't see him play last year at Pittsburgh. But they're both good-sized guys. 6'3", 210, somewhere in that range. And should be a good matchup. It really should be.
Hey, talk to us a little bit about Dante Corleone, the Godfather, as he's nicknamed. We've been telling folks around here that he's the real deal, that he's big time defensive lineman. College Football News Freshman All-American. He's got 2 sacks this season. What should people watch for in Dante Corleone?
Yeah, he's definitely, a great kid, great guy, doing a great job. Now he's getting double teamed a lot, as you can imagine. However, they've got some other guys there at the D line. Juwan Briggs is another very, very good defensive lineman. Eric Phillips is the third guy that they generally play in, when they've got their number ones in there. But in Dante Corleone's case, he's not an overly tall guy, probably around 6'2". He's lost some weight from last year. He had an outstanding year last year as a freshman, so he's lost some weight. He's a little quicker. The issue is he's getting double teamed, or a running back hitting him, or a tight end coming in to chip him if he's maybe out playing in the B gap. But at the same time, he's a guy to watch. He's very quick for his size. He can get into the backfield. He can certainly cause havoc. And where he really, has done a great job this year, you mentioned his stats with the sacks. He's got a couple of tackles for losses as well. But when he takes up 2 offensive linemen, that means somebody else is one-on-one or maybe running free. So he's allowed the defense to play a little bit faster. The linebacking crew is a good linebacking crew. They've been able to, to take advantage of the fact that Dante's being double-teamed and really create some havoc in there.
Jim Kelly is a radio analyst for the Cincinnati Bearcats, inducted into the Cincinnati Hall of Fame in 2017. Couple more questions for you, but before we get to that, you got a lot of Cincinnati helmets on your wall behind you. What was the model when you were playing?
I have that here somewhere. We used a McGregor or a Rydell. Those were the two. I go back a long time. It was a little bit more padded than some of the older Rydells, which would be to my left. It probably might be your right, the way that the screen's looking. But I've got everything. It's amazing to go back and look at. One of them's from 1968. And then the red one that you see up there, I think it's the red one. Yeah, the red one's a current one.
Yeah.
And to look at the way that the helmet has changed through the years in protecting the athlete, and in a good way. And there's a little bit of a weight difference, but not as much as you'd think, considering all the padding. So, they've changed a little bit. What they call the C paw here, which is the C with the claw coming out the top now. That logo's been around for quite a while now, but the interlocking you see, which you can see again there just below my shoulder, was around for a long time as well. And that's what we used. So.
That's a cool man cave right there.
Yeah, I love that.
I
like music on one side and football on the other. Can't get better than that. So, hey, what'll be the difference on Friday night?
I think there's a couple things.
Cincinnati wins if what?
Yeah, well, first of all, in your favor, it's a tough place to play. I've been there before, and I don't just mean the altitude. That's certainly something that, we'll see how they deal with that. But just the atmosphere, the size of the stadium, the magnificent view of the surroundings, the mountains, and so on and so forth. But all things being equal, I think if this game was played somewhere in the middle of the United States at 2:00 in the afternoon in a neutral field, I think it's a pretty even battle. The Bearcats maybe have a slight edge as far as what they've been able to do moving the football, but it isn't showing on the scoreboard. If you look at the points that both BYU and Cincinnati are scoring, they're almost identical. If you look at the points they're giving up, they're almost identical. At the same time, being at home in the first Big 12 game for the Cougars, I can tell you only because I just went through the first home Big 12 game for the Bearcats. It is a big deal. It's great to be in this conference. When when I went to media days down in Dallas, and I'm looking around and I'm seeing Texas and Oklahoma, and I realize those guys are leaving. But even Texas Tech and Baylor and Oklahoma State and Kansas State, it's big time, and your fans are going to love it. And I think again, slight advantage to BYU in reference to this game. At the same time, if the defensive line, you mentioned Dante Corleone, but if those guys can get to Slovis, and create some pressure, I don't necessarily mean sacking 5 times, but make him a little bit uncomfortable in there like they did with Dylan Gabriel at times, make him throw maybe off the wrong foot or throw quicker than he needs to, then maybe they can stay in the game. And if it's a close game, anybody can win that. And I looked at the schedule, and your first Big 12 game was on the road and played a very, very good Kansas team.
Yeah.
UCF lost their first one. Houston hasn't played one yet. And Cincinnati lost theirs to Oklahoma. So the 4 new teams in the Big 12, somebody's going to win a game this weekend.
That's right.
And, particularly the BYU Cincinnati game where you've got 2 of them where they're playing each other. So one of those 2 teams is going to win.
Going to be a fun Friday night. Before Blaine hits you up with 5 questions, and then we'll let you go to bed. And thanks for staying up with us, by the way. I know you just got done with your radio show.
We have our coaches show from 8 to 9, which is from 6 to 7 on your side. So I was up anyway.
So you've got a life in football. How many times have you been asked the question, what was it like to play quarterback for the Buffalo Bills?
That might be in the 5 figures, but definitely somewhere over 1,000.
Yeah, we're like,
Yeah,
no, we're talking about the football, Jim
Still
Kelly.
to this day.
Well, that's
I
good.
generally say, well, he's a little taller and a little younger, but thank you for the compliment.
You got it.
That's great.
All right, go ahead, Blaine.
Yeah, we're going to give you 5 questions, Jim. We do with all of our guests that you just answer whatever comes to the top of your head. And
Okay.
Your favorite sports movie?
Oh, boy. Favorite sports movie. Man, I would say Hoosiers.
Yes.
Fantastic
There you go.
choice.
Spencer's a guest with us tonight. He's still sitting in. That was his when we asked him earlier. So you guys are on the same page on that.
Well, fantastic.
Let's see if you guys match up on this one. Favorite singer or band?
Yeah. Probably my age is going to show here. Favorite singer or band? I was a huge Beatles fan.
Nice.
In the early years, and maybe not so much down the stretch for Sgt. Pepper's and
Yeah.
the White Album. And
Yeah.
so on. I don't know. I'd have to say the Beatles. They were a big influence on my life.
You cannot miss with the Beatles, that's for sure. So, favorite breakfast cereal?
Yeah, good. That's another good one. Right now, I change them out from time to time. I have a box of Cheerios in there now. I had Life cereal for the first time.
Classic.
In maybe 20 years.
Yes.
And I really liked it.
Did
so I may
you
go back
do
to
the
that.
regular Life or the cinnamon Life?
It was the Cinnamon Life.
Yeah, see the
Yes,
cinnamon. I'm
Had a little bit more calories. I understand.
Yeah, I
That's
love
all
it.
right.
I love the cinnamon Life. And
It's
honestly,
very good.
Cheerios, I used to eat them all the time, but then I realized I put so much sugar on those things, I might as well just eat a sugar cereal. Like 3 tablespoons of sugar was not
One of the
good.
reasons I got it is I'm not putting sugar on it. But, they do taste better with sugar. I agree with
Cinnamon Life, that's all. Okay, your favorite ice cream flavor?
you. Another tough one. I would. I had one today, and I don't eat a whole lot of ice cream. I had one today that I really like, but it's probably something you'd struggle to find. It's made by a Cincinnati company called Grater's, which is a very good ice cream, and it's called toffee chip. So it's a combination of toffee, chocolate chips, hunks of chocolate, and vanilla ice cream. It's very, very good.
That
right,
sounds great.
Grater's is legit. I've had it multiple times.
Yep.
I've been to Cincinnati
Yeah.
multiple times. The black cherry chocolate chip or whatever it is they
So,
have is so good,
that's
Jim.
probably their most famous.
Oh, the best.
Yeah, it's real ice cream. It's very good.
Hey,
Yep,
feel
and
free
by
to
the way,
bring a couple of gallons with
I've
you.
had Graders as well.
See if they'll allow me with dry ice on the plane. We'll see.
Spent a lot of time in Cincinnati early in my other career when I was working for Merrill Dow Pharmaceuticals, which was based
Sure.
out
Right down the road from where I'm in Blue Ash. That's
Yeah,
right,
I was going to say right in
down
Blue
the
Ash.
road in Reading.
Played a few rounds of golf at Blue Ash Country Club. So
Okay, I actually live on it.
there. Oh my goodness! Yeah, Cincinnati is a way underrated city. I think Cincinnati's got it's got the Midwestern hospitality, but all the culture of an Eastern city, and people just don't know that haven't been there. It's a great city.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it is. It's got everything that you would want in a big city, but it's got that Midwestern feel.
It sure does. So here's our last question. Your favorite Bearcat memory of all time?
Well, there's been a bunch, and let's see. I would say on the field side, the 2009 game against Pittsburgh, where both teams were undefeated. Well, no, Pittsburgh had lost a game, but it was for, at that time, the Big East Championship. And Pittsburgh, with 1 minute and 20 seconds, scored and missed the extra point. Game was tied going into it. And Cincinnati drove the length of the field, and Tony Pike threw a touchdown to Armand Benz to tie the game with about 30 seconds, 25 seconds. Bearcats kicked a field goal an extra point to win the game, went on to the Orange Bowl and won the Big East that year. So clearly, even only because that was one of the best live sporting events that I've seen. They were down 17-0. 17 points at halftime, came back and won that game. So quite an event to see. Other things were, certainly I met my wife there, so that was a big thing. Can't give you a specific day. And being inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame was big as well.
Yeah,
Those
that's a huge honor with such a great institution. So,
hey, we sure appreciate your time tonight. Have a safe trip out here. We'll see you Friday.
Looking forward to it. Can't wait to get back out there. Thank you, guys.
We'll see you when you get here, Jim. Thanks
Jim.
so much.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Hall of Famer Jim Kelly, analyst for the Bearcats, joining us live from Cincinnati.